The worst diving deaths ever. What's good, y'all? Welcome back to another video. I'm not scared of water. I know how to swim. I'm an extremely well-versed swimmer. So I feel like if I had diving gear on, I would probably survive. It'd make me superhuman. That's how confident I am. But I'm not gonna do it. I still wouldn't, because I don't care that much. Especially no cave diving, water, underwater. Nah, none of that. You're crazy if you do. But God bless. Without further ado, let's get straight into this video.
She been comment me.
The sinkhole tragedy. On April 28, 2000, a 22-year-old Russian diving instructor named Yuri Lipsky arrived at the Blue Hole in Dahab, Egypt. He took a camera along to document his achievement. He planned to break his personal depth record as he decided to attempt a bounce dive. A bounce dive is when a diver drops to a maximum depth and returns immediately to the surface.
Off rip, I don't know how y'all doing this. Bro, if you show me a map that looked like this, I would think it's Africa. Not Africa, obviously, but some place, some river in Asia or something like that. Y'all think this is human fittable? This is not the right shape for a human to be going down. If I were to see a cavity like this, imagine there's no street lights, there's no poles, there's no hazard lines, there's no limit lane. You might need to come up here and go through this way.
This approach cuts down time at depth and limits decompression needs, but it tempts less qualified divers to go deeper than they should. The Blue Hole sits on Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. This underwater sinkhole plunges more than 300.
That don't look like you should be in it.
So many divers have died there that the people in the area call it the Divers' Cemetery.
Yeah, everybody died there, so you know what? I want to go next. I'm different.
At 180 feet down, there is an underwater tunnel called the Arch that connects the
My bad, I had to get some glasses for my eyes start being strained.
open ocean. Most fatalities occur when divers attempt to swim through this tunnel. But Yuri's death happened somewhere else entirely. Tarek Omar, another diver who was more experienced with technical diving, had tried to talk Yuri out of the dive, but Yuri refused to listen. He was confident in his abilities because he was an instructor. He thought he knew what he was doing. At 5
Hey
p.m.,
Yuri, you got
prepared
it.
his camera at the surface, adding a red filter and making sure everything was set up. The date and timestamp showed on the recording. The sun was still shining through the water. After a while, Yuri began his descent with a single air tank. He had overworn himself with heavy gear. In the first 2 minutes, everything looked normal. Nothing special was happening. After 4.5 minutes into the video, his light began fading. By the 5-minute mark, darkness had surrounded him completely. At 5 minutes and 37 seconds, Yuri held his dive computer at the camera. The display read a depth of 266 feet. A rocky, sandy bottom appeared below him on screen, but Yuri was still sinking. It looked more like a slope than a flat surface. Moments later, he checked his computer again. The screen showed he was around 301 feet of depth down.
Oh
Yuri tried to inflate his buoyancy compensator. The audio captured the effort clearly, but it did not work. His movements became frantic as he struggled with the camera.
Yep, use
Finally,
more air.
He released it onto the bottom, hoping to free both hands and restore buoyancy. The camera remained motionless on the sand. His breathing grew louder, and the diver computer's alarm continued beeping, but there was no escape. At 301 feet, Yuri consumed air 11 times faster than he would have at the surface. His single cylinder was nearly empty. The excessive weight made it impossible to ascend.
Is that pressure down there, like going so low where it just crush you? You know what I'm talking about? Like submarines, when they get past their limit, their depth limit, their dive limit, they just like, remember that like earlier in the year, you remember they called it like the Titanic. It was just some rich ass people went down there trying to look at the Titanic or something like that, and their submarine imploded like within like half, like 0.25 of a second type of fast. Is that what happens to your body? Like in space, if you're just in space, no suit, don't you just boom?
Even if he had wanted to ditch his weights, nitrogen narcosis at this depth would have clouded his judgment completely. His ability to make rational decisions was gone. The footage jumps ahead for about a minute. The camera was still on the bottom. Yuri's breath can still be heard, and the beeping continues. But Yuri Lipsky had already died face down at the bottom of the sea. A week later, Tarek Omar descended to recover his body along with the camera. Surprisingly, the camera was intact. The recording preserved 7 minutes of Yuri's life, showing his worst nightmare as he sank to his death. Plura Cave disaster. On February 6th,
Wait, so did he have the camera on his body, or did he set it up go back up trying to do a cinematic, like, see what I'm doing. Because if it's that case, he's even dumber than I thought.
2014, 5 Finnish cave divers traveled to a small secluded valley in northern Norway. They were experienced friends looking forward to a long weekend expedition into the Plura cave system. The caves in Nordland are spectacular underground natural phenomena created by the massive formation of limestone in the mountains. The Plura cave is 2.2 miles long, but only half of it has been explored. Cave divers from all over Europe travel to this remote location for the underwater adventure. The group of friends includes Patrick Grunqvist, Jari Huotarinen, Kai Kenkanen.
Let's be real quick. I got a question. Where do you practice diving at? A pool? I'm not talking about just diving. I'm talking about, like, maybe there's places in the world that are very shallow and you just gotta travel, but, like, you can't just go to your park and practice in a pond. Cause, like, you know how there's, like, water in that tunnel system? Where do you practice that at?
Usimeki and Vesa Rantanen. They plan to start at a deep pool, travel underground through water-filled tunnels, and emerge in a dry cave called Steinugelflaget, which is about 1.2 miles higher up. The lowest point of the dive section measured about 433 feet below the surface level. The divers plan to go in 2 teams. Patrick and Jari Huotarinen would dive first, and after 2 hours, the second team would follow the same route. The operation began at a pool near the Jordbru farm in Plurdalen. The ice was thick, almost half a meter. The divers had to use a chainsaw to cut an opening, but the challenges were extreme. The water temperature was below freezing at -3 degrees Celsius. Each diver carried equipment topside, weighing approximately 132 pounds. They used closed-circuit rebreathers carried on their backs, plus additional spare cylinders. Patrick and Jari Huotarinen entered the water and began their descent. They had been to this cave before. In fact, Patrick and Kai had been the first divers to find the passage through to Steinugelflaget back in autumn 2013.
Dang, legends, huh?
They reached the maximum depth of about 433 feet below the surface. On their way back up, they had to set aside 2 hours for decompression, stopping at regular intervals. Skipping decompression can cause decompression sickness, which is fatal. During ascent, Patrick realized that something was wrong. Jari had gotten stuck in a narrow passage. He was trapped in the most constricted part of the route between the deep section and Steinugelflaget. It is one of the worst things that can happen to a cave diver. At great depths, stress increases rapidly. The body produces more carbon dioxide under stress. Carbon dioxide is the most insidious danger a diver faces. It is more dangerous than running out of air. It kills. At that moment, Patrick checked his dive computer. It had shown roughly 120 minutes of required decompression time. Suddenly, it jumped to 400 minutes. His breathing was rapid. His heart rate was high. Regardless of decompression requirements, Patrick could not stay in the water any longer. He had already been submerged for 7 hours. His body was shutting down. On his way up, Patrick started thinking about the second team. They were 2 hours behind him. He had already swum past Jari Huotarinen's dead body, blocking the passage, but he had no way to warn the others. Patrick made it to the surface around 9 p.m. Exhausted, disoriented, and freezing, he pulled himself out of the icy water
and reached
the dry cave alone. He waited in the darkness, hoping to see light beams or bubbles from his friends below. Hours passed, but no one came. Eventually, he walked down the snowy valley by himself, realizing something had gone terribly wrong. The last diver to surface was Kai. Before then, Jari U had seen his dead friend, Jari Huotarinen, stuck in the narrow passage. Jari U panicked at the sight and exhibited signs of distress diver. He tried switching between his equipment to find stability. Kai made an attempt to calm his friend down. He tried to help, but could not save him. And in a few moments, Jari U died. Then Kai found Vesa struggling with the dead Jari Huotarinen's body that was blocking the...
So it took one nigga to take down like 4. Cause you got stuck, caused stress for him. Carbon dioxide, died. Now when you die, I get I start stressing, I get carbon dioxide, die. Now the next nigga come in looking, oh, carbon dioxide, he's dead. Carbon dioxide, die. Man.
He was already breathing heavily. At that point, Kai was faced with an unfortunate decision. He's to either save his friend or save himself. But seeing that Vesa was unlikely to survive and he was already running out of bailout gas, Kai forced himself to turn around. On his way out, he thought all his friends were dead in the dark depths behind him. Around 1:30 a.m., he finally surfaced through the opening in the ice. He had survived a nightmare dive that lasted 12 hours. Fortunately for Vesa, he made it through, but Jari Huotarinen and Jari Usimeki were dead. Eagle's Nest incident.
Wasn't there one more? It was a group of 2 and a group of 3. One got stuck. The first 2, one got stuck, one left them. And then, am I stupid? One survived, so 1 and 1 survived. One got stuck. This one died. Right? Oh, no, yeah, all of them
On
died.
Saturday, October 15th,
I'm
2016,
stupid, my bad.
3 experienced cave divers arrived at Eagle's Nest in west central Florida. The site is a remote sinkhole in Chassahowitzka Wildlife Management Area, surrounded by pine
Chassahowitzka?
trees. From the shore, it looks like an ordinary pond. Beneath the surface, it is shaped like a sink with a long, rocky drain. The passages descend into underwater caves, reaching 300 feet in depth. Chris Rittenmeyer and Patrick Peacock were highly trained technical...
What are these names? Everything from the people to the places they are swimming, the places they are going. What are these names?
divers. Both men were certified in full cave diving, Trimix breathing gas, closed circuit rebreathers, and motorized underwater scooters. They had years of ocean and cave diving experience. Their friend Justin Blakely remained in the shallow section to explore the area while Chris and Patrick went deeper. The day before, on October 14th, Chris and Patrick had prepared the cave. They staged decompression gases and bailout bottles along their planned route in case of equipment failure. For divers using closed-circuit rebreathers, the normal procedure is to stay on the rebreather for the entire dive, including decompression. The staged open-circuit gases are backups in case the rebreather fails. Each diver was equipped with a closed-circuit rebreather, 2 side-mounted 95 cubic foot cylinders, 180 cubic foot safety
I don't know what any of this
and a scooter.
mean.
They also towed a third scooter as backup. Around 2 p.m.,
They
Chris and
prepared.
Patrick entered the water and began their descent. The plan was for them to check in with Justin at 3 p.m. during their decompression stops. That way, he would know they were okay, but they never showed up at the checkpoint. Justin returned to the meeting point every 30 minutes, but there was no sign of his friends. By 6 p.m., he had notified the police. Search teams entered the cave that night. The first team checked the upstream passage based on what the
So
support...
are the search teams Navy SEALs? Because we gonna send y'all down there to get stressed. CO2, dead. Then we're gonna send the other guy to get you. Your coworker sees you dead, stressed, CO2, dead. Is that how it works or not?
Diver thought was their plan. They searched thoroughly, but found nothing. They returned and searched downstream, including an area called the Lockwood Tunnel. Still nothing. The first team surfaced around 3:30 a.m. The second search team entered at 3:45 a.m. to continue the downstream search. They
None of them
immediately
died?
found both bodies on the exit side of an area called the Pit. The scene was documented for 45 minutes. It was treated as a potential crime scene until law enforcement said otherwise. On Monday, October 17th, a gear recovery squad searched for equipment left in the cave. They found 2 scooters, Patrick's rebreather, and a 95 cubic foot emergency cylinder at the end of the guideline outside a restriction leading into an area called Revelation Space. The rebreather's loop was closed, and the unit appeared fully operational. All gear was removed and turned over to law enforcement. What actually occurred remains unknown. They did everything right. They had proper training. They had quality equipment. They set up the cave the day before. They had all the correct emergency and safety gases. They had surface support. But as Joe Satelli described the incident, sometimes bad things happen to good people for no apparent reason. Chris Rittenmeyer
Damn.
and Patrick Peacock died at 260 feet. Since 1981, at least 10 people had lost their lives at the Eagle's Nest. The Bali diving tragedy. On February 14, 2014, 7 Japanese women set out for a diving trip near Nusa Lembongan, a small island just east of Bali, Indonesia. 2 of them were diving
This is not gender motivated, but they had no fucking chance.
instructors. The other 5 were tourists on holiday. All 7 were experienced divers with at least 50 successful log dives each.
Never mind, I'm
They were
tripping.
not beginners. Nusa Lembongan is known for its stunning underwater
Better
beauty.
than me, at
Its
least.
colorful coral reefs, diverse marine life, and crystal clear water draw divers from around the world. But the area is also known for something else.
Sharks.
Strong, unpredictable ocean currents
Oh,
and a
yeah.
sudden change in water density. Around 1 p.m., the women began their 3rd dive of the day. The weather looked good when they entered the water. Their boat captain, Agustinus Brata Kusuma, followed them on the surface for about 20 minutes. Then suddenly, a storm hit. The water became cloudy and choppy. Large waves formed quickly. Then, the captain moved his boat several distances away to where the divers were expected to surface, but they never appeared. Kusuma searched the area for about an hour before he departed to buy fuel. When he returned, the divers were gone. At 3 p.m., he finally called the police. The 7 women had been swept away by powerful currents during the storm. Huge waves.
Oh my goodness. I remember one time, look, I was at the beach, right? And I was with my sister. We were playing like in the sand or something like that. We got in the water a little bit, dove. She's like right here by my side, like right here. And we're sitting here talking, yeah, whatever. And we start splashing water or something like that. Maybe we're throwing a ball. I don't know what we were doing, right? And we were with a group of people too, like our friends. I was like in 7th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade. We went to the pool after school. To the beach after school. All of a sudden, you hear like the ambience of everybody at the beach and waves and talking. Once I just bagged it, I took a step back. It was silent. My sister's like 30 feet away. And I'm nowhere near the shore. I was fucking shitting myself. I was like, what is going on right now? Where am I? It was like the water wasn't even making waves where I was. It was just flat. I was just out there like this. Just like doing this. Just treading water. Good thing I know how to swim. I'm using every wave. I'm going with it. I'm going with it. And I get back. Tell my sister, I almost died. Y'all almost lost me to sea. Not the streets. You almost lost me to the sea.
Pushed them miles from their starting point. They struggled to remain together in the open ocean, battered by wind, rain, and swells.
R.I.P. the King of Random.
No rescue was coming. They were alone. On the first day, Friday, there was no rain. They had no fresh water to drink. The sun burned their exposed skin. Dehydration sets in quickly in the tropical heat. Salt water surrounded them, but drinking it would kill them faster. On the second day, heavy rain came. They opened their mouths and drank rainwater, which kept them alive. By the third day, Sunday, they were barely holding on. Their bodies were shutting down from exhaustion, sun exposure, and dehydration. On Monday morning, February 17th, local fishermen spotted 4 of the women clinging desperately to a coral reef near Nusa Penida Island. They were about 12 miles from where they had started their dive.
They lived.
A rescue boat was dispatched. The 5th woman, instructor Saori Furukawa, was found floating nearby, and she was picked up by a helicopter. All 5 women were rushed to hospitals. They suffered from severe sunburn, dangerous dehydration, and deep abrasions from the coral, but none were in serious condition. Against all odds, they had survived 3 days in the open ocean by drinking rainwater and clinging to whatever they could find. On Tuesday, February 18th, the body of Ritsuko Miyata was found floating near Serangan Beach in South Bali. The 59-year-old woman was almost unrecognizable. She had been in the water for days. Some of her hair was gone. She was still wearing her wetsuit and flippers. The search team continued for the 7th diver, Shoko Takahashi, 29. She was a diving instructor who had moved to Bali and married a local man. She ran the dive operator Yellow Scuba with her husband. What was supposed to be a fun day out with clients and friends became a worst nightmare. Days passed, then weeks, and exactly 1 month later...
I'm one of those people, if I'm with you, don't do anything crazy. Or I won't be with you if you do anything crazy. Because what I look like saying, all right, have fun at work, or see you after work, and you go and die in the water at work, I'm straight.
Later, on March 17, 2014, Shoko's body was found washed ashore on Sempu Island in East Java. The island is about 250 miles from where she disappeared. Ocean currents had carried her body across vast stretches of sea for an entire month. The boat captain, Agustinus Brada Kusuma, was arrested and charged with negligence causing death and injury. Prosecutors argued that he abandoned his responsibility. According to the rule, a dive boat captain is supposed to stay with divers, especially during bad weather. Instead, he left 7 women alone in the open ocean during a storm so he could buy fuel. 2 women died. 5 survived by clinging to rocks and coral.
But I thought he got wiped away with the storm, though. Isn't that the story?
While drinking rainwater for 3 days in the ocean. At a press conference after their rescue, the 5 survivors bowed and apologized for causing trouble and requiring rescue efforts. They thanked everyone who had searched for them. The captain faced criminal charges that could result in years in prison.
The Pringle Man, huh? The Pringle Man. Looking at Pringle Man killed 2 people, right?
If you'd like to see more stories...
Hey man, that's a W video. Appreciate you watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Do not go diving. And if you are at the beach, make sure you are always looking around and pay attention to the shoreline, because that shit will pull your ass out. I'm telling you, you will get lost at sea. It's not as hard as you think. I'll see you on the next one. I'm gone.